You are not authentic or brave if your truth violates another person's right to a dignified and safe life. You are a bully.
Yellow's down. And like all of you there by the portfolio committee, you watch him.
If MacG is being summoned to the presidency, to go and explain himself.
And this is with regards to what he said about Umini Dlamini.
Bro, I'm telling you, man, there's gotta be something wrong with her. Like maybe a coochie smells or something, bro.
No.
Yeah. You know this happens, dog. It happens, bro.
No.
Especially with the hot girls. I literally.
Now hear me well. I am not saying what he said is correct. But please, he must not go alone. He must take along that man, Utandones Temp, the man who married Uma Kumali.
Podcaster MacG has garnered the attention of many over the past couple of days, and this is because in a recent episode of Podcast and Chill, while the team was discussing Minnie Dlamini's recent breakup from plastic surgeon Dr. Brian Munaisa, MacG questioned why the media personality seems to be unable to keep a man, and he insinuated, maybe just posed the question that maybe her private parts have an unpleasant smell. Now right there, I just sugarcoated what MacG said, but nonetheless, MacG does pose a question. He sort of gives a speculation. He asks maybe. He does not definitely say that the reason for the breakup is because Minnie Dlamini's private parts have an unpleasant smell. As I said, he merely poses the question, speculates if you wish. Now, of course, besides MacG making his speculation on his Podcast and Chill network, there had been other speculations of infidelity was the reason for the breakup between Minnie Dlamini and the doctor. This whole situation just stinks. So let's freshen things up on the channel with a like and a subscribe. But nonetheless, what MacG said on the podcast seems to have gotten the attention of a lot of people on social media. Now, apart from social media, it seems like he also got some attention from the media. I believe that Moja Love released a statement. Now, when it comes to Moja Love's statement condemning MacG's derogatory remarks about women, I was a little bit confused when it comes to this one. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure by now we all know that MacG's Podcast and Chill network has now made it on to DSTV. However, the podcast does not air on Moja Love's channel DSTV 157. I believe it airs on Mzansi Wetu. Now, unless Moja Love is releasing this particular statement because Mzansi Wetu is sort of owned by Moja Love, I didn't really get why Moja Love came out with this statement. Moja Love itself has been under fire because they are unable to rein in Siyacela on Isencane Lengane about his comments that he has made, as well as actual threats coming through with a whip threatening people on the show. But they were very fast to come out with a statement condemning MacG's derogatory remarks about women, about what he said on his podcast. But moving swiftly along from that, Multichoice came through and they distanced themselves from MacG's comments on Minnie Dlamini. Now, Multichoice is in partnership with MacG, his Podcast and Chill network, so them issuing a statement makes sense. Now, the statement from Multichoice read as follows: Multichoice is committed to upholding the standards of broadcasting in South Africa. All Multichoice owned or commissioned content that is scheduled to broadcast on our platforms and all content that has aired undergoes an internal review process. This is done to ensure clearance by our editorial standards. Also, compliance with the regulations set by the Independent Commission Authority of South Africa, ICASA, and the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa, the BCCSA. The episode in question has not aired on our platforms. So right there is a standard classic by the book statement from a broadcaster saying that, look, it is the content creator who created that content. Because we follow these standards, we are not airing that on our platform. So if you want to blame someone, blame MacG and his Podcast and Chill network. Shifting the blame. Now, apart from that, Women for Change, of course, slammed MacG's remarks about Minnie Dlamini. One thing I will say about Women for Change is that they are consistent. I was 100% waiting for a statement for Women for Change, and they did not disappoint. The statement, as you can see over there, podcast and chill with MacG is not entertainment, it's toxic and dangerous. Now, in the statement, the organization Women for Change expressed concern over the harmful narrative promoted on MacG's platform, which they believe perpetuates toxic masculinity, victim blaming, and blatant misogyny. But the most surprising statement of them all, for me anyways, is the one that came from the Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Mapaseka Steve Litsike. Now, the statement was posted on their X account. It reads, media statement, Deputy Minister of the Department, MS Litsike, on the utterance by Mr. Magaiva Mukwevu, MacG, towards Miss Minnie Dlamini on podcast and chill, which constitutes online gender-based violence. Now, all in all, it is a 4-page statement, and these are some of the comments from the statement. These comments are disgusting and must be regarded as unconstitutional violation of Dlamini's rights to freedom and security of the person, equality, and human dignity as enshrined in the Constitution. The statement also goes on to say that they consider what MacG said as online gender-based violence. What is alarming is MacG has a history of disparaging Dlamini and other women on the same platform. The minister also noted statements by the public and viewers of Podcast and Chill, as well as the condemnation by Moja Love of MacG's disregard for women's rights and gender equality in his utterances. Goes on to read, there is no room in our democracy for misogynistic and demeaning utterances that perpetuate patriarchal iterations of gender relations. We are encouraged that within the ranks of South African society, we have people who are sober in mind to call out abhorrent tendencies that are a distraction from achieving gender equality. And lastly, the statement basically says that MacG's comments will be reported to the appropriate constitutional and legal bodies such as the Commission for Gender Equality, the Human Rights Commission, and the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa, so they can look into the matter further. Now, after this particular statement, there were reports coming out that MacG will be summoned to court. However, the minister did address this, and this is what she had to say about MacG potentially being summoned to Parliament.
So you intend to summon Mr. Mugwebe to Parliament. What do you hope to achieve with this?
In fact, I am not intending to summon. My statement from the department that we released yesterday was very clear. We refer matters of this nature to the portfolio committees, and 2 committees we've highlighted. One, it's a portfolio committee on women, youth and persons with disability, and second one is also on technology communication. One, Parliament has its own responsibilities, its own powers and privileges, and we actually have highlighted its own privileges where it can summon individuals. And if they refer to Chapter 5 of Parliament's privileges, in this case, where you can actually summon people, they can actually be calling Mr. Mugwebe to doing so. Those powers are within portfolio committees themselves. Ours as executive is to really ensure that we implement the national strategic plan. The president have called the public to actually play its role, a whole of society. And a whole of society, it includes all arms of states, including Parliament themselves, but it also includes the very same platform as Mr. Mugwebe, which is the podcast itself, where it must help us end gender-based violence, including those of online abuses. So what we are calling for is that Parliament must exercise its own privileges.
Now, when it comes to all the statements, the reaction, the backlash, if you want to call it, to what MacG had to say, I do not think that there are many people who are out there saying that, you know what, MacG is 100% right, but there is definitely some people coming out and saying that MacG was merely speculating, as many have speculated before. He said maybe. Now, I've also seen on social media people pointing out that this particular energy to cancel MacG's podcast and chill network was not evident for other people who came out and said similar things or even worse things about other people. Case in point that is presented on social media is people saying derogatory things about Ntigi Mazwai. There's also another case in point, people saying similar things about DJ Smooth when he went from the DJ Smooth from Friends Like This, all clean shaven and looking neat, to the DJ Smooth who is now peddling more fire. Heck, I've seen some people saying that DJ Smooth looks like a hobo. He looks like he crawled out from under a bridge and is now trying to sell you some more fire. But on a serious note, personally, I think MacG is an unfortunate person who is now being used as the scapegoat. He is the one who is being used to sort of set an example, dare I say, the sacrificial lamb. However, MacG is no lamb, he is the goat. And rest assured, the chillers are not just gonna step back and let people cancel MacG. So the final question that people have is, will MacG apologize for what he said? And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to RedLive if you haven't, and binge watch my previous videos.